Good Saturday morning. You're listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Nicholas Jones with us, the first edition of the Voice of Small Business. Nicholas, good to have you with us. Welcome to the KIDO Talk Radio family.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. I'm glad to be here.
You know, it's easier said than done to succeed in business. For people just tuning in right now, can you share with us why you're here and what you hope to accomplish?
The reason I'm here is because, you know, we're in a post-apocalyptic world, and it's time for us to really look into how we're going to be growing businesses with a completely different environment where we don't have a baseline anymore. And, you know, I'm here on this radio show because I've been blessed with a wonderful family that's actually supported me and helped me to explore what my interests are. You know, when I was 21 years old, I became a single father of my own and raised a beautiful little girl that is the light of my life. But as a necessity, I didn't have an opportunity to really explore what interests me. I operated largely out of necessity, which kind of rings home to where we are with a lot of businesses here in Idaho, where people are sometimes in panic mode or they're operating in just bare necessity mode. I didn't have a chance to explore my interests, didn't have a chance to look into what I wanted to do. I got married 4 years ago, and my wife Amelia took that role of mother from me and stepped into the picture so that I had an opportunity to explore what I was interested in. Since then, I've opened a restaurant, I've started a tech business, I've had the opportunity to sell quite a few businesses and really explore what my education has provided for me that I hadn't been able to do before. And it's allowed me to focus on applying my talents into areas that I've been interested in, whether it's teaching at Boise State or at NNU, whether it's, opening a business, in the restaurant industry, which is where I'm focused in right now. But I've had an opportunity to help others build their business. And I'm looking into it now where we've got this post-apocalyptic world we're dealing with after COVID, and it's an opportunity for me to get on the air here and share my experience and help people implement the ideas that they have. We've got businesses that are at the brink of extinction that people have put all of their life savings and their entire life effort into. And hopefully this show is going to be an opportunity for people to be in touch with thought leaders and local industry leaders as well that can help them know what they need to do to be agile, nimble, and adjust to go forward in this economy that we have.
What was that like when you became a father at such a young age? What went on in your mind?
Anything that happens, if anybody who has kids understands the exact same fear you have of where you're like, oh, hey, they give you a kid, you walk out of a hospital 3 days after having a kid, and they let you take that kid, and you're kind of like, why are you letting me take this kid? I don't know how to do this. But I also walked out of there just me. Like, I walked out of that hospital situation with just a baby and just me and trying to figure out how to raise. And so when I was in my 20s, I thought, hey, I'm going to go and work for Qualtrics, which was what my plan was. And when I became a single father and it was just me and my daughter, that all changed. I couldn't go and work a 9 to 5 and raise an infant at the same time and expect this infant to grow up really knowing me. I mean, I didn't want her to go to daycare when, she's like 3 weeks old. And so I adjusted and I entered into the world of entrepreneurship, which would allow me to raise her during the day. And then when she was during nap time or when she was asleep, I'd focus on business. And so it was scary, just like everything is. And so what it did is it kind of, I guess, caused me to be more immune to that whole fear of starting from scratch, because I started from scratch there and in one of the most intimately scary situations. And so I carry that skill set with me when I go into business, where when it comes into starting something new or building something, it doesn't faze me at all. And I've started from scratch, multiple times. And we're in a world now where we are going into a post-apocalyptic situation here where we have people who don't have a baseline anymore. And so, answering your question in detail, when it comes down to the reality, a month ago or 2 months ago or 3 months ago, before or pre-pandemic months, I could tell you on any given Tuesday what my Good Burgers were going to make. I could tell you on any given Wednesday what they were going to make. I knew how much food to order. We knew what my labor costs were going to be because I had a baseline and I had an established history that I could pull from. When we entered into this pandemic, when our economy basically, almost completely shut down, everything changed. Even coming out of it now, I don't know what a given Tuesday is going to bring. And the same situation for every restaurant. And we have to rely on our own metrics, but they're not there. We don't have a baseline anymore. And that's scary. And so we're starting from from scratch. And so just pure fear when it came, raising a father and raising a kid as a father, like I took that I've taken it with me everywhere I go.
Well, most of us watch the shows, whether it's The Profit or Shark Tank. How different is it what you live each and every day being an entrepreneur than what we see on television? Well,
when you look on television, The Profit, by the way, is one of my favorite shows because, on Shark Tank, when you see them they come and they give a 3-minute pitch where they're like, here's my idea. And that's fantastic. Ideas are great. And then whether it's Kevin Leary or whoever happens to be helping them go from A to B to C, the real challenge is implementation. And when we look at The Profit, what makes The Profit so good is he shows you implementation in that, that 45-minute clip that they've got for a TV show. And that's the real challenge. And you can see when you watch The Profit, like they're like, I've got all these ideas, I want to do X, Y, and Z. And it never really goes anywhere with some people because they don't implement. No rubber doesn't hit the road. And so what makes this show specifically different is because we're going to be talking about implementation. We're going to be talking with thought leaders who have created ideas and then have implemented it, because that's really where it is. We always talk about in whether it's on TV or anywhere, we always say, hey, put your money where your mouth is. Talking is one thing, but implementing is a completely separate thing. And so whenever I was teaching, I've taught, university classes for 4 years. And the one thing that makes my class different than any other university class is implementation, is that challenge of saying, hey, you have an idea, let's make little bets to make it so that you can take your idea into something that can earn and generate revenue. And each episode that we have, or each show that we have every Saturday, we're going to go over a challenge and we're going to talk about implementation, whether it's with a local business owner, a local politician, a local thought leader, and we're going to go through and help create implementation for your business that you can take with you.
Well, as you said, it's easier said than done. So for people that aren't familiar with some of your teaching, you say you're teaching at the college. How does that work?
I don't teach there anymore. I'm exploring some other options for myself. But the way it works when we're talking about implementation, it's really simple when we break it down into granular components. Let's think about a lemonade stand, for example. A young man goes out, or a young woman, and decides that they want to start a lemonade stand. Whether they get a $10 loan from their parents or it's $10 that they've earned through hard work and mowing lawns, they go out and they have an idea. I'm going to create a lemonade stand. They take everything they have. They buy lemonade or lemonade mix. They buy a pitcher and they make it. And then the implementation part comes when they sit on the side of the road with a sign that says lemonade for 50 cents. And they've implemented that idea. When we grow it into something bigger like a business, people have these amazing ideas. Hey, I want to create a 3D printing company, and I'm going to go out and 3D print and create all this huge stuff. But that's the idea. When it gets into the implementation, they go, oh, wait, a 3D printer is going to cost me $30,000. Oh, wait, you mean I've got to dedicate all this time and effort into manning my lemonade stand so I can sell these, 3D printing prototypes? The implementation's the hard part, and it really just takes that step past fear. So with the lemonade stand example that we talked about, that young entrepreneur who has a lemonade stand along the side of the street, implementation is very simple for them. They've got to go and buy the product, they've got to mix the product, and then they've got to stand and try to wave at people going by to come and buy the lemonade. Very, very simple. In this post-apocalyptic world where we have implementation as an issue, let's say we've got a burger joint like mine that's getting out there. The implementation is much grander. It's much more difficult. Not only do we have to now go out and try to figure out what the baseline is, and people who own a business, if you're tuning in and you know you're an employee, and we're gonna address those issues with you as well on implementation, and to help you become a more successful employee or even to create a side hustle. But when it comes to business owners, you know, they understand the difficulty of implementation, where it's hard, where they have these ideas and they want to do it, but how do they execute it? And that's where we get into little bets. And this is going to be a frequent discussion that we're going to have over the course of this show over the next year or so, is going to be about little bets. If, you know, I mentioned a $30,000 project for a 3D printer versus $10 for a lemonade stand. If you're going to be implementing an idea, you don't want to do something that's going to cost $30,000 and potentially risk losing $30,000. You want to do $10 little bets. So the 3D printing, you'll break it down into saying, hey, rather than getting a commercial 3D printer, why don't I buy a 3D printer from, you know, Staples that's $300?
Let's hold that thought for a moment, because we'll get back to implementation next. You're listening to Nicholas Jones, the voice of small business, on KIDO Talk Radio. And welcome back to the voice of small business, Nicholas Jones, on KIDO Talk Radio. Nicholas, very interesting what you're talking about, and you are such a veteran entrepreneur at a young age. But, you know, folks of, and I say this as a compliment, of your ilk, a lot of young people are not doing the 9 to 5. They're creating their own jobs. And it comes down to implementation, and we all have these big dreams. And you're saying we don't have to go into debt to get the big, elaborate, bougie 3D printer. We could start small and to build?
Yeah, exactly. So you want to start and find, so the real rule of thumb with any business is that X amount of people are going to buy it. The real issue is that X, is that small number of people that are going to buy, is it large enough to cover the amount of money you're putting in? I've, you talk about, I'm young, I've been successful. That's because of failure, really. And like what I'm preaching about is because I learned it through the school of hard knocks. One of the best experiences that I've ever had in my life, and my mentor is going to be on this show here in the future, was a great guy by the name of Peter. And, he and I went into business together. He took me under his wing. And the concept of little bets wasn't something that was as familiar with me today as it is now. And I got raked over the coals. I made some mistakes. He helped me. He showed me how to get out of them. And it really kind of came down to implementation, to where, I was talking, so back to this 3D printer. So 2 scenarios. Let's say you've got a $30,000 3D printer and a $300 3D printer. Both produce stuff at different levels of polishness of what, so obviously you can't be selling something to an enterprise level business if you've got a $300 printer, but there's no reason why you can't find something that you can print with a $300 printer and start making money that way. Game figures, for example. You could print game figures with a 3D printer and sell those to a game store. I own a game store. I'd buy stuff like that. And I know a lot of other game store owners that if you could do something and provide a value to them that they don't have to do. I mean, there's value everywhere. Start making $10 here, $10 there until you've saved enough to buy a $3,000 printer. Get a $3,000 printer. Start printing stuff at a little bit higher level. Find new clients. Then save up a little bit. Start printing, buy a $5,000 printer, and so on and so forth until you got yourself that $3,000 printer. And when you follow this little bet process that we're going to talk about in detail, like I'm real high level in it here, when we start to break this down in the future, you're going to see that now when you've taken this little bet approach, over the course of however long this takes, you have a clientele base that you build that you can now go to and start selling better models, better little widgets, and whatever it is. You can even tinker and create your own stuff along the way.
So let's get back to some of the businesses that you own that you've referenced. Can you share with us?
Yeah,
the
I'd love
business
to.
You have?
Yeah, so I have right now my focus is on 3 particular businesses and 3 particular industries. In 2017, I started Good Burger. I wanted to enter the restaurant world, which I had never been in before, to challenge the status quo of the restaurant industry. And that was in 2017. We now have 11 Good Burger locations that are up and running. We got two that are just about finished. COVID kind of put some delay, but that puts us at 11. And then I have a game store chain. So an individual by the name of Ken Somerville, one of the best gaming minds I've ever come across in my life, actually started All About Games, and I entered into it with him in 2016. And so I'm pushing that along. We've grown it to 3 locations, and those are the 2. So 1 retail, 1 food, and then I've got another focus that I am pioneering, which is just my consulting stuff on the side, which is where I help businesses implement these ideas that they have. And so those are the 3 areas that I'm focusing in right now. I've got a lot more wealth of experience in the past, but those are my 3 that I'm focusing on.
Let's focus in because, I'm a fan of entrepreneurs. Obviously, Ray Kroc, the founder, the guy that started McDonald's, came up with this. We've all seen the movie with Michael Keaton. We all know that restaurant business is highly competitive, yet you chose to jump into it. Why?
I want to challenge the status quo. So whenever I enter into anything, it's with the focus of making something better. And I like challenges. And what better challenge than the restaurant industry? There's a running quote that I've often heard people say to me when they find out I entered into the restaurant world, which is, you do realize that in order to make $1 million in the restaurant industry, you have to put in 10. And just it's a heavy capitally intensive industry. And I realized that, long ago, that if you have a mission, a passion, a drive, you can make stuff work. And it's little bets again. It's all about little bets. So I started with 1 location in the Boise Town Square Mall, developed a partnership with them, and worked with them, and have had success with that, which allowed me to go into another one, and as long as you do the best you can to make it as cash driven as possible, when you find yourself in a situation like we are with this pandemic we're in, it makes it so that you're a little bit more insulated than otherwise. And so I focused in on that because I want to challenge the status quo. I want to make burgers the best they can be, and at the same time, I want to do good, and that's why we call it Good Burger. It's because we do good, whether it's going down to a Haitian refugee camp and pulling out abscessed teeth, or it's providing meals to people within the community that don't have money to buy food. We want to do good as a company, and so that is kind of and it also allowed me a platform to be able to get out there and do good with something that could continually to have money that I could start pumping into the community that we're involved in.
How has COVID affected Good Burger?
One of the hardest punches to the gut I've ever had. We had a roaring business that's able to do a lot of good and helping other people to going on to life support for a brief period of time, where I had to be very, very wise in every decision, very, 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 very scrupulous in everything, because we've gone from 100% pushing along to 30, 50% at a given time, during that pandemic. As things have been opening up, locations have been doing better, but it's been a challenge, just like we've all felt it within the restaurant industry. And quick service is a little bit different than sit down. You come in, get your burger, a really like restaurant quality burger, and then you go on your way. Quick service, restaurant, you sit down, fill tables, and we want to get people in and out, but there's not many people coming in and out anymore. COVID is changed the way we do business. Now we have to be conscious about wearing masks and making sure that that we're changing our gloves regularly. So there's added expense with PP&E, but it's changed everything. So expenses have gone up, revenue's gone down. It's the nature of the beast, but we're going to pull through it.
Sure. You go back to Good Burger. You're doing good with the burgers. I love how you've broken this down. So what type of good have you done?
I referenced the Haitian refugee camp. So one of the good things that we've done is that we took some of the profit to fly down 11 volunteers to a Haitian refugee camp. Tickets really weren't that expensive to do this. And we found a dentist who was willing to volunteer his time to go down and provide a service. One of the things that we really forget about here, if your tooth hurts, you go to the dentist. If your tooth hurts there, you just kind of deal with it. And so, one of the things that happens is you get an abscessed tooth, which, infection, and it just, your entire mouth gets destroyed. So we have dentists that go down there and just yank those suckers out, and now a person can eat food like that they wouldn't have been able to do before. And so we had, a couple dentists go down there. We also had a couple dental hygienists that went down and gave everybody a teeth cleaning that was much needed and much overdue. We taught sex education classes when we were there. We worked with local, this was as Good Burgers a company, we worked with local people around the area to get some computers that we could donate to some of the schools that were in those refugee camps. And we, brought down some hygiene kits. We brought down boots, brought down some clothes,
Sure.
blankets, did all that type of stuff that they needed. And then, so that's what we did on kind of an international scale. But really, the best good you can do is with time. And so then we focus on here. So whether it be I've teamed up with Interfaith Sanctuary for us to donate some meals and give out meals, or it's us giving out meals to those who are experiencing homelessness or in need. We were giving out meals to people with that. I recently just got a food truck, so I can actually park the food truck and start handing out food there. I'm working with a couple nonprofits to try to get that hammered out. During Christmas area time when it was cold and frigid, I teamed up with Odin's Eye out of Nampa, who helped cut a deal, which, by the way, shameless plug, Odin's Eye in Nampa, fantastic. Like, they're great business to work with, and I've loved working with them. I bought 150 jackets to give out to people, and we did. Here in the local area.
We're going to take up on that in a minute here. You're listening to KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM and 580 AM. KIDO Talk Radio, good Saturday morning with you. The voice of small business, the voice of business, the voice of big business, the voice of helping folks. Nicholas Jones with us. Nicholas, let's go back to you're talking about buying coats. What does that have to do with helping small business? Why the charitable giving?
So, I mean, that particular part isn't necessarily what I've done to help small business. That just helps the individual there who's cold and wants a coat.
Sure.
And so we're giving them a coat. As far as where it ties into really helping business is that, there's always a shtick that goes with a business, whether that shtick is helping people, whether that shtick is, whatever it happens to be. For Good Burger, the shtick is we're helping people. If you're going to buy burgers from us, we're going to be helping people and doing whatever we can in the community. Right now in a post-COVID era, you have hundreds and thousands of struggling businesses here in Idaho. Every dollar is precious, and the mission that you have behind your company is going to be the thing that carries you through it. If that mission is to be helping locals, helping veterans, there has to be some kind of social aspect behind your business in order to really kind of communicate with those people who are spending that dollar. And, because if you have two choices and I can spend $1 to help somebody who's helping veterans, or I can spend $1 to help somebody who's just putting it in their pocket, like I want to spend that dollar that's helping veterans, because we want to maximize the utilization of that dollar. Everyone does. And so when it gets into helping small businesses, when you go into this post-COVID era, what can your business do that not only helps you survive, but can help other people survive and add a sense of community to the business? Because that's really going to be what's going to be this next wave, is going to be that sense of community.
And that's something easier said than done when you're talking about building. You go back to what have you learned just with Good Burger on COVID, how to fight that? And I mean, was that the biggest body blow you've ever received as far as a business?
In the last 10 years, it is. Like, it was, and it's still lingering. There's a lot of programs in place from the government to help if everything irons out correctly. But yeah, it's the biggest one that I've had, because I've got a huge empire that I've been growing, and to be able to try to keep everything off of life support is the biggest one that I've taken, and it's required some creative adjustment. And those who don't adapt die. Whether it comes into me serving, dinner meals now to people in order to be able to hit my break even, or it comes to, different training programs that we have in place within my company to make sure that we're all following in line to make sure that we're not going to be passing COVID along. It's different. The experience that I got from my mentor, which I mentioned earlier, was to stay ahead of what's coming. And when this whole COVID thing started to happen in February, I called every single one of my employees together. We kept our social distancing for a meeting. We'd open up the garage doors for my downtown location. We had, 40 people in that area, well enough apart, and said, hey, something bad's happening here. There's going to be they're going to be shutting down the economy. Things are happening that can be bad. But what we're going to do is I want you all to know I'm not laying a single one of you guys off. And so what I've done over the last few years is I've gone into this. I have a rainy day fund where I put a little bit into there just in case this happens. And so, I told every one of my employees, no matter what happens, I'm not laying any of you off. I'm going to have work for you guys one way or another, even if it's mowing somebody's lawn. Like, we're going to have work for you, which actually turned out to having that happen, where we only had one person on at a location because we're only just doing delivery. And then I had other people who were volunteering in shelters. I had other people who were, mowing lawns for people, just doing whatever they could to meet some hours, and I covered the rest of their hours. And so it was a big blow, but we stayed ahead of it to try to make sure we would survive what was happening, and that everyone else would survive, and didn't know what the unemployment situation would have been, so I didn't want to kick them all to the wolves. So.
Sure, but you've been to the wolves before.
I have, very much so. And it's been a fun little experience in the past, but I didn't want to keep people I didn't want my employees to go to the wolves because I had to take care of them. And so yeah.
What was that like, the wolves?
Which incidents are you referring to?
There's your toughest challenge.
My toughest challenge.
I would imagine when you were young and you're a father and it's just you.
Yeah. So that that was difficult. The real thing that when I was with the wolves with my daughter in that situation was not shirking on the work. When realizing that, hey, I've got an adversity coming my way, I've got to make sure that I am sleeping well, making sure that I get, like, I at least got 6 hours of sleep, that I ate well, that I did what I could. Cause I was putting in, 14, 16-hour days, when I was trying to start my businesses, grow my businesses, raise my daughter. And I tried to keep a grateful and humble heart. And, right now where we are in a situation with businesses that there are going to be inevitably some that fail. And I found in my life that there are two avenues that I could take. One avenue is when adversity hits is to harden myself and just really start to hate the world. The other avenue is to look for the brightness in whatever situation I have. When I was raising my daughter by myself, I had multiple opportunities of anger where I just was like, why am I in this situation? Like, this is awful. Like, I haven't done anything to deserve this. And whether I'm crying myself to sleep or just angry and frustrated, I took a moment to step back and really just find gratitude in the journey and realize that I had my daughter. No matter what happened, no matter what got me into that situation, I had my daughter and she was there. And I looked for gratefulness so that I could be the other option. So I wouldn't be that person that hardened myself and just found anger. And what that did is it allowed me to see other opportunity. Because when we find ourselves in this COVID situation, we can look at ourselves and we can say, hey, I'm really mad about this. I'm angry. This shouldn't happen. Like, my entire life is getting destroyed because of everything that's out of my control. It is. But do you really want to focus on that anger, or do you want to focus on those little gems that you have in your life that you're grateful for? Because if you do, you can see more opportunity. I went from broke as broke could be to actually making enough money to support my family, to making enough money that I could actually buy a car, and one thing to the next, where now I have a house that I can own, and we've got all these opportunities that I kept myself focused on, looking for what opportunities were ahead. And my counsel to everybody when it comes into to business right now is to make sure that you're taking time out of your life to write down what you're grateful for. One of my partners, Brady, that I've had in my past, is one of the most adept and smart, intelligent individuals I've come across as well, gave me a bit of advice on what he does every day. He has a journal book, and in there he has 3 things that he does. The first thing is he writes down a challenge he has. The second thing he does is he writes down something he's grateful for, and then the third thing he does is he writes down an outlook, something that he's looking forward to. And I started, like, the second he told me that, I started doing it myself, and I've continued to do it to this day, where I write down something I'm grateful for, something that the challenge I'm facing, something I'm grateful for, and then something that's a good outlook. And every day I always try to find something new that I'm grateful for, and it's allowed me to continue to keep my perspective open. Because one of the worst things you can do in this situation when things are struggling is to put on the blinders, because you'll miss stuff. And so that'd be my advice to everyone right now. And it helps you with implementation, because that small little act of writing down what you're grateful for, it allows you to see opportunity, and that helps you with implementation. Like when we talked about earlier with the lemonade stand, you have super simple implementation when it comes to that lemonade stand, where you're saying, I'm going to go and sell lemonade. It's going to cost me $10, and all I got to do is sit by the side of the road and have people come by. When we get into a business, when your livelihood is on the line here, that implementation is key, and being able to keep your eyes open is essential.
Well, and that is so important when we're looking at the world that we live in today. How can people get a hold of you?
So I am going to be so this week I'm just going to have a little pitch page at thevoiceofbusiness.com. So just voiceofbusiness.com, and they can go there and submit their email address and start to get added to my email list. And I'll also have an email up for contact@voiceofbusiness.com. The website's not going to be up this week just because, hashtag 2020, there's like a bajillion things happening. But I'll have that website up where they could get on there, that they could start to reach out to me over that. I'm also going to have a Facebook page that'll be up for them at the facebook.com /voice of business, where they could message me, and I will respond to every single message I get. And what I'm going to be doing, and the offer that I'm going to have for every...
We'll hold on that for a minute, because, boy, for some first show, you like to talk. That's good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
More next, KIDO Talk Radio. KIDO Talk Radio, we're back, and we were talking earlier about how people can get a hold of you and your plans for the show, multi-platform.
Yeah, so we'll have Facebook and website access for them, and the every message that they send to me on Facebook or over email or through the contact on the website, I'll make sure to respond to every single person. And the offer that I'm making for everybody with this as we get things going is I'm going to do everything I can to help point people in the right direction on business with whatever business questions they have through the forums or through Facebook. And I am going to help guide and share whatever experience I have to help them get this going. And the reality is, too, is that you have landlords struggling, you have employees who are struggling, and there's going to have to be a middle ground between landlords and business owners on how we're going to all recover from this as the economy reopens. And I'm optimistic that things are going to get better. Like, I'm very optimistic about it.
Let's talk about your other business, gaming.
Yeah.
And you have several, but we've heard that gaming is really where the growth is. Everybody is into gaming.
Yeah. So I got into it in 2016 largely because I love Magic the Gathering. I love playing it. I love board games. I love sitting with my family playing a board game. It's got a special place to my heart because, my daughter would come to me with these games that she saw at school, like Robot Turtles, and we'd play with them. And I'm a big believer in making sure that our businesses we open are aligned with our passions. And I've been a gamer all my life, and that growth is there. And, it's not as recession proof as a hairstylist or a haircut, for example, but it's more recession proof than others, because you're either going to get your games online, or you're going to get your games at a store. And if you and your family can't go out, you want to go get a game. I mean, go to a game store and
Sure.
grab a game. And so it's been, but that's where the growth is it's more protected, just because, one thing too, and we'll talk more about this later down the road, is that in each business there's certain protections that are in place. Amazon's dominating the world, and it's, I've seen the effect on my game store, but there's certain games that you can't get on Amazon that you can only get from a mom and pop store. And every business has these little protections that are in place, where the Wingspan, for example, the Amazon price that they can't undercut me, because Wingspan has said, hey, we're gonna make sure that you sell it for this price. And if you haven't heard of the game Wingspan, it's a fantastic game, but it's just one of the many games that are out there that protections. And so when we go into these businesses, let's say that you have a cafe, there's protections in place that you can start to utilize, and whether it be with your online presence, or whether it be with signage on the outside of your building, you just got to be able to identify those protections. And right now at this moment, we don't have a lot of opportunity to dig into that, but we'll dig into it more as with each show that's coming along.
Sure. How big do you see the gaming industry going? You have esports now. It's on television, generation after generation.
Yeah, I see a lot of growth in it. There's a resurgence that's taking place right now with even just collectible card games, with sports cards, memorabilia, where we've got a resurgence of that probably over the next 4 years. I see, double-digit growth in that industry. That if people play it right and do it right, I can see them making some money off of it, entering the industry.
What would you say to people right now that are up? Maybe they're doing this side hustle. I mean, the growth of side hustles now, it used to be just an added value thing. Now it seems to be a perfect part of people's lives. What do you think of the driving, the getting people the food? Don't really want to name any brands, but you know what I'm saying. People seem to be embracing the side hustle.
I'm all for side hustle. That's really the next step. You can't escape the rat race working 9 to 5. You can enjoy your life, which is the key. I'm always of the philosophy that don't spend your life living for vacation. Spend your life living the life you want to live. And the side hustle, whether it gets to food delivery or it gets into trying to open their own business on the side, whether it be transporting people, transporting food, whatever it happens to be, that's a good way, because you can take that money, stick it in the savings account, so that when you have bigger, grander ideas later down the road, you can roll with those. Right.
Have you figured out how to game the side hustle yet, or?
So I have my own side hustles. Yeah.
Sure.
So I've got I got into drop shipping a little bit ago, because I thought, hey, this could be fun. I made some money off of it. I didn't make enough to really make myself rich by any means, but it was fun. And it's autonomous to a point where you've got some drop shipping stuff going. I'm working on side hustle. Everybody's working on side hustle. I've got a friend, his name's Larry. He's opening a watch repair business in Nampa. They just signed a lease. We're able to negotiate a good lease because of, hashtag 2020 and
sure,
the world's burning. And so he's got a side hustle that he started where he's repairing people's watches. And it's he's got his main 9 to 5 he's doing, and then he's got this business on the side that he does on specific hours. And it's enjoyable to see how these side hustles start to grow into something big, to something that can replace their current income. And that's the real goal is create a side hustle, run that side hustle until that income from that side hustle replaces your current 9 to 5, and move into that. So then you can start to create the life that you want to have. There's an unlimited amount of side hustles, whether it's food delivery through the various delivery services, whether it's people transporting with the various transporting companies that exist, whether it is creating a website and utilizing companies like ClickBank, to have people sell your product, or it is, like knitting scarves and selling that to people. The side hustles are unlimited. It's just, what are you good at? There's people who are going to buy whatever you can do that you're good at.
Right. And sometimes, Nicholas, that can be so confusing because you just mentioned drop shipping. You got Shopify. You've got ClickBank. There's a lot out there, and having that focus and direction. How do you do that?
Little bets. So taking little pieces at a time. The ClickBank, for example, is a fantastic way for people to take digital resources or products that they have and get it out to everybody. So it's clickbank.com for everybody. If you go there, they have tutorials that'll show you how to do it. And that's the beauty of YouTube. Like, it's made it so that anybody can go, I want to learn something. You can Google it. You can go to YouTube and find out whatever information you want. And so drop shipping, all these wonderful buzzwords, really complicated. But when you break it down into the granular level, that's where YouTube comes. You can Google, how do you do drop shipping? You can Google ClickBank and watch the tutorials they have on how ClickBank works and create a side hustle. If you're going to say, hey, I can spare $150 every 2 weeks. Utilize that $150 to go forward. There's companies out there that can help you create a website, like S-Effect. They're a company that I've done work with before in the past, and they have the ability to create a website for you where you only have to spend $46 a month. I mean, $46 a month to have a website that you can start to drive people to, through ClickBank or whatever other resource you have. I mean, that's doable. Like, that's a chunk that you can take on and eat to potentially grow your side hustle empire. Right.
And there's Alibaba and Amazon and all these things. Right.
Like, one of the ones that blew my mind, and I had to buy it because I loved it. It was metal straws. It was oceanlifestraw.com, and this guy had metal straws that he was quote unquote giving away. You had to pay for shipping and handling. And I Googled, how much is a metal straw in Alibaba? And so, he had probably bought 100,000 straws from Alibaba and is selling you, one straw at a time,
right,
to ship it to you. And I just, genius. I was like, this is amazing. Like, I love it. Like, that type of stuff. And it's interesting to watch all this stuff happen. One of my friends has a company called Wells & Co. She started as a side hustle clothing company just on Instagram, sharing it with people over Instagram, and has now turned it into something that actually works well for her, because she's like, I can sew clothes.
Sure.
So I'll sew clothes and I'll sell you stuff, and where that goes, who knows? But there were people who wanted it. There were people who bought it.
One more time, if people want to get a hold of you.
So if people want to get a hold of me, just head over to voiceofbusiness.com.
All right. See you next week.
See you next week.
You're listening to KIDO Talk Radio.